February 23, 1995. A 28-year-old trader packs one bag and walks out of his Singapore office for the last time. On his desk, he leaves a note. It just says, "I'm sorry." He doesn't call his boss. He doesn't call the police. He just leaves, boarding a flight before anyone back home even knows something is wrong. 12 hours later in London, a bank that survived Napoleon, 2 world wars, and the Great Depression has less than a week left to live. You've probably never heard of Barings Bank, and that's exactly why this story works. In 1995, it was Britain's oldest merchant bank, older than the United States itself. It financed railroads across continents. It funded entire governments during wars. Even the British royal family reportedly kept money there. For 2 centuries, safe as Barings was basically a saying in London. Barings wasn't just old. It was 233 years old, founded in 1762, 3 decades before the French Revolution even started. For comparison, that's older than almost every company you've ever heard of, older than most countries on Earth today, and older than the idea of a stock market crash even existing as a concept. This bank helped finance the Louisiana Purchase, the deal that doubled the size of the United States. It survived Napoleon's wars. It survived 2 world wars and the Great Depression without ever once collapsing. Then one 28-year-old trader working out of a small office in Singapore took it down in about 3 years. And for most of that time, nobody at headquarters in London had any idea what was actually happening on the other side of the world. Look at that math for a second. 233 years to build something that survived world wars, revolutions, and depressions. A few weeks in February of 1995 to destroy it completely. That is not a slow decline you can see coming. That is a bank that looked perfectly fine on a Monday and was completely gone before the next one arrived. In 1992, Barings sent a young trader named Leeson to Singapore to run a brand new derivatives desk. He was 25 years old, ambitious, and genuinely good with numbers. He'd grown up outside London without the private school background most of his colleagues had. Singapore was his one real chance to prove himself, far from anyone senior enough to double-check his work. Here's the part almost nobody mentions when they tell this story. Leeson wasn't just placing trades for the bank. He was also running the back office that was supposed to check his own trades for mistakes. That's like being your own teacher, writing your own test, grading it yourself, and then mailing the report card home before anyone else even sees it. In July 1992, just months into the job, a junior trader on his team made a mistake that cost about £20,000. It was a small, forgivable error, the kind that happens on any trading floor. Instead of reporting it up the chain like he was supposed to, Leeson hid it. He opened a special account meant for tiny rounding errors and quietly buried the loss there, where nobody back in London could ever see it. He numbered that account 88,888. In Chinese culture, 8 is considered a lucky number, doubled up here for extra luck. It would turn out to be the unluckiest 5 digits in the entire history of banking. Here's the twist nobody expected. Because Leeson kept reporting big trading profits that didn't actually exist, London treated him like the golden boy of the entire company. Executives flew out to Singapore just to shake his hand. Nobody wanted to ask hard questions about one small overseas desk that was apparently printing profits out of nowhere, because the story was one everyone in London badly wanted to believe. Here's the part that should actually worry you. To make that first small loss disappear, Leeson didn't stop trading. He traded more. He placed bigger and bigger bets, convinced the very next one would finally win it all back. That is exactly how a £20,000 mistake quietly turns into something nobody can hide anymore. I'll show you exactly how big it eventually got in a second. Watch what happens to the hidden losses inside account 88,888 over the next 2.5 years. Every single time Leeson bet bigger to cover the last hole, the hole underneath it just got deeper and harder to climb out of. By the end, the number wasn't measured in thousands of pounds anymore. It was measured in hundreds of millions, growing faster every single year. You've probably done a small version of this yourself. Maybe you kept swiping a credit card hoping the next paycheck would fix it, or doubled down on a bad trade hoping to break even before anyone noticed. Leeson did the exact same thing psychologically, just on a different scale. The only real difference is he did it with other people's money, at a size most of us genuinely can't picture. By January 1995, Leeson had placed one massive, unauthorized bet. He was betting that the Japanese stock market, the Nikkei, would stay calm and keep slowly climbing through the winter. It was the kind of bet that only pays off if literally nothing unexpected happens anywhere in Japan for months at a time. On January 17, 1995, a massive earthquake hit the city of Kobe, Japan, killing thousands of people and flattening entire neighborhoods. The Nikkei stock market crashed almost overnight in the chaos that followed. Leeson's entire bet, the one that only worked if nothing unexpected happened, had just lost to an actual earthquake he could never have predicted, controlled, or hidden from. In the panic that followed, Leeson bet even bigger, trying to recover everything in one final desperate move. It didn't work. The hidden losses sitting in account 88,888 exploded to £827 million. At 1995 exchange rates, that is roughly $1.4 billion gone. Here is why that specific number was so catastrophic for Barings. The bank's entire capital, every single pound it had in reserve to absorb losses of any kind, was about £350 million. Leeson had lost more than double that amount, alone, from one small desk in Singapore. Do the math with me for a second. The hidden losses were more than double everything the bank owned in the entire world. The moment that number became public, Barings wasn't a struggling bank anymore. It was already mathematically insolvent. It simply hadn't told anyone yet. On February 23, 1995, Leeson fled Singapore with his wife, leaving that note behind on his desk. 3 days later, on February 26th, Barings Bank was formally declared insolvent. The Bank of England considered stepping in to quietly rescue it overnight, the way governments sometimes do for banks this size, and decided this time it simply wasn't worth saving. 233 years of history. Survived Napoleon. Survived 2 world wars. Erased in about 3 weeks by one hidden account. Barings was sold off to a Dutch bank called ING for a symbolic price of £1 single pound, plus every debt attached to it. Leeson was arrested trying to fly home, extradited back to Singapore, and put on trial in front of the world's press. He was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. He ended up serving about 4 of them before an early release on medical grounds. Here's why a story from 1995 still matters to you today. Leeson got away with hiding losses for 3 years for one simple reason. Nobody was checking his work except himself. That exact same setup exists in your own bank account right now, just at a much smaller, much quieter scale, with nobody watching but you. You don't need a secret Singapore trading account to lose track of money. A forgotten subscription that costs you $12 a month doesn't look like much on its own. Do the math, and that's $144 a year, quietly leaking out, invisible unless you actually go looking for it. That number you already know is bad and keep avoiding. That is your own personal version of account 88,888. So do the opposite of what Barings did. Step 1. Open your banking app right now today and look at your actual balance, not the number you're guessing in your head. Step 2. Write down any figure you've been avoiding, a card balance, a loan, a number that makes you flinch when you see it. Step 3. Turn on one automatic low balance alert, so a small problem never gets 3 years to quietly turn into $1 billion one. That's it. Do it before you close this video, not after.